Problem 1 here. Basically we have this trinomial is equal to 0. Now we're trying to figure out what x value will make this true. What, when I plug into that x, will make this side come out to equal 0. Well, you could factor this and get this times this equals 0 and then solve for each piece. But a surefire method that will always work is the quadratic formula. Now, you need to remember the quadratic formula, which says that x will be equal to the opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Now, you got to remember, what are a, b, and c? Who are those guys? Well, if you remember what's in front of the x squared, this is your a piece. What's in front of x is your b piece. And what in front here by itself is your c piece. And all we have to do is plug these in. Now what I like to do is I like to come here to the side and simply put what A is, what B is, what C is, and I like to go ahead and calculate 4 times A times C. It saves some mistakes that students sometimes make when they're doing this if we go ahead and get the 4AC piece, because y'all have trouble with minus of 4 times A times C. The negatives sometimes mess you up. So that's why I like doing this here. So let's start. The A piece is going to be a 5. So we fill that A in with a 5. B is 13. C is 6. Now we calculate this 4 times A times C. 4 times 5 is 20. Times 6 is 120. So now we have most of the values you and I want. So we come to the equation. X is equal to the opposite of B. The opposite of 13 plus or minus. Now remember, plus or minus means we have two equations. We've got to do 13 plus, or excuse me, negative 13 plus whatever we get divided by 2a. And then we're going to have to do negative 13 minus whatever we have, because there's two solutions. But I don't feel like writing two things out, so I'll do it all at once until I get to a lower part, and then I'm going to separate it into the plus part and the minus part. So we have negative 13 plus or minus the square root of b squared. 13 times 13, that's 169, minus, now what did we get right here? 120. So I'll put 120 right there, all divided by 2 times 8. 2 times 5, that's a 10. Alright, well let's simplify this. This is going to be negative 13 plus or minus the square root of 49 all over 10. What's the square root of 49? That's a 7. So this becomes negative 13 plus or minus 7 over 10. Now is when I'm going to separate it into its two parts. So what I want to do is I want to do negative 13 plus 7 over 10. That's one solution. And I'm going to do negative 13 minus the 7 over 10. That's our second solution. Usually it's a clue. If you got an x squared, you're going to usually have two solutions. We'll go over later the fact of all the different options of what you can have. But for what we're doing, in this case, you need to be thinking, hey, I might come out with two solutions here. And that's what's going to happen in this situation. I'm going to do negative 13 plus 7, so I got negative 13 plus 7 over 10. Or the other solution, negative 13 minus 7 over 10. When we do this, negative 13 plus 7, that's 6 tenths. So one of our solutions is 6 tenths, which I'm just going to simplify to 3/5. You might put 0.6, that's fine, nothing wrong with that. Now, I've messed up because this is a negative. I apologize. That's negative 6 tenths, which is negative 3/5. Here, that's negative 20 over 10. That's going to be negative 2. That means if we plug negative 3/5 into this original equation, it'll come out to be 0. Or if we plug negative 2 into this equation up here, it'll come out to be 0. There you have it. Quadratic formula.